Let me ask you a question. Do you want to do something extraordinary, something great for God that literally leaves your mark on eternity? Or do you want to live some boring, meaningless, mundane, purposeless life? In this video, I'm going to share with you 4 different characteristics of the types of people that God uses. Coming up. Hey, my friend, welcome back to The Beat. My name is Parr. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here, it's a pleasure. If you enjoy this video, consider subscribing and hit that little bell notification so you won't miss a beat. Okay, so it is Friday, and as I mentioned last week, we are starting a new series going through the book of Genesis, not necessarily verse by verse, but I'm picking certain episodes and certain snapshots, different stories, if you will, from the book of Genesis that I believe that are practical and will have an impact on our lives. And today I have chosen Genesis chapters 6 through 9, which is the life of Noah. And the question that I always ask whenever I read the story of Noah is, what exactly did God see in Noah that caused him to choose Noah above and beyond every single other person on the face of the earth to build this ark? And there are 4 things that I see that God saw in Noah that I believe that he's looking for in us when he wants to choose and use somebody to do something great for him. And the first thing that I believe that God is looking for is men and women with integrity. Notice how the Bible describes Noah in verse 9. It says here, this is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. So there are 3 things here that I see. First of all, it says that he was a righteous man, which basically means that he did what was right in the sight of God. He wasn't perfect, but generally speaking, he lived an upright life. And then the next word that is used to describe Noah is the word blameless. And I believe this is just simply saying that to the outside world, he had a good reputation. He had a good name. People could not bring anything or any charges against him. He was blameless. But this third one could be the most important, and it says that he walked in close fellowship with God. So if you want to be a man or woman that God taps you on your shoulder and says, I've got an assignment for you, I want you to do something amazing for me, make sure that you are spending that close, intimate time and fellowship with God so that when God says, go here or do this, you will be in tune with God enough to be able to hear exactly what he wants you to do. The second characteristic that I believe that God is looking for is not only people who have integrity, but people who are obedient to him. Notice what verse 22 says about Noah. It says, so Noah did everything exactly as God commanded him. So I can imagine that when God came to Noah, it's like, hey, I want you to build an ark because it's going to rain. Noah's like, wait, rain? What is that? I don't even know what that is. Water falling from the sky? Like, that makes no sense to me. And yet he obeyed and went forward with the plan that God had told him because he had an obedient spirit. So God is looking for people that will say, you know what, God, I don't understand this. This doesn't make sense. This is not something that I've done before. This isn't something anyone else has ever tried before. But God, if this is what you are clearly calling me to do, then my God, I will be obedient and take that step of faith and do it. This means that we must be willing to be stretched outside of our comfort zone. We must be willing to be challenged to do something that maybe make us feel uncomfortable, something that we're not sure is going to work. And many times it's in those experiences where we feel the weakest that we see God's strength come through even more. And then the third thing that we see is that not only does God use people with integrity, he uses people who have an obedient spirit, but he also uses people who are diligent. Chapter 6 verse 3 suggests that it took Noah, here it is, 120 years to build this ark. Are you kidding me? I can't even wrap my mind around that. We can't even spend 120 minutes doing something without getting bored, without losing our focus. We can't spend 120 hours doing something, 120 days doing something, whether it's a diet, whether it's a financial plan, a budget, or whatnot. And this cat spent 120 years building an ark. What does that tell us about Noah? It says that he was a man of diligence. He was willing to put in the hard work. He was willing to be patient. He was willing to try something and possibly fail. He was willing to be consistent and do the same thing again and again. He was disciplined enough to start something and finish it. And so if we are going to be people that God can depend on and trust to do something great, we have to make sure that we are willing to be diligent and that we are willing not just to start something, but to see it come to pass. I'll share this with you. Whenever I started this YouTube channel about 3 years ago, I had every reason in the world to get discouraged because I would spend hours and hours trying to get these videos together, editing them, doing all these different things. And sometimes I put a video out on YouTube and it would get like 8 views in like 2 weeks or 10 views. And I found myself easily getting discouraged. But whenever you know what God is calling you to do, you won't care what other people are thinking. You won't even look at the results. You will just be diligent, put your head down, and finish the task that God has given you. And then the last thing that we see is that God uses people who are flawed. Notice chapter 9, verse 21 says this about Noah. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk and lay naked inside his tent. So this guy drank so much wine that he just literally passed out butt naked, so much so that his sons had to actually come and cover his nakedness. One thing that I love about the Bible is that it shows us all the flaws of people that we look up to. It doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't hide anything, which gives us encouragement to know that God is not looking for perfect people. So if you're waiting for your life to be perfect and you have it all together before you get in the game and do what God's called you to do, you are going to always be waiting. You're always going to have an excuse for why you're not doing what God has called you to do. We can be encouraged that even though Noah got drunk and had some flaws in his life, he actually ended up making it in the Hall of Faith in Hebrews chapter 11. So if you want to do something great for God, I want to encourage you to, first of all, make sure you're a person of integrity. Number 2, make sure you're willing to be obedient at any cost. Number 3, be diligent at what you do. And number 4, recognize that God specializes in using people who have flaws. If you found this video helpful in any way, feel free to share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would love it if you would subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time on The Beat.